Hello, and oh, Mitzi, you want to come join? Happy Valentine's Day, happy self-love month, happy everything. Thank you so much for joining on this day in the middle of the day, or I don't know what it is where you are, but welcome, welcome, welcome to the How to Be Your Own Valentine's Self-Love Workshop. And let's just get going. So today we're going to do, this is the order of events: the heart chakra activation, the intention setting, how to love yourself unconditionally. I'm going to go through, that's the main hunk of the teaching. And then I'm going to introduce you to something, and then we're going to come back and keep teaching on how to plan solo dates. Then we're going to go through a live tapping of loving yourself unconditionally, do even more of that, get all that in there, and then we're going to do our DIY tutorial. So if you didn't take a look at all of the supplies, then that's a good time to do that. These are the things that you're going to need if you want to participate in the intention setting and the DIY tutorial. So those are all in your email as well. And you can take a little picture of that. Mitzi's apparently just going to be really involved in this. You know, she's a really big proponent of self-love. Honestly, she's really believes in herself as much as she possibly can. She even believes that she can eat things that aren't food. That's how much she believes in herself. And frankly, I support her. So we even have a crazy cat lady joining us. You're welcome. Also, let's get this chat popping off. Can we say some stuff? Give us a shout out from where you're coming from, where you're joining in from, what time it is where you are, how you're feeling today. And let's not be silent. This is a community. There are people here, and they all have something in common with you. And let's make sure. Oh, Heather is the crazy cat lady. I should have known. Certainly, I should have. Okay. So if you do not know me, or, oh, from LA, we met at Vortex Fest. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay. All right. Keep it popping, keep it popping, keep it popping. Let's go. So if you don't know me, I'm Mary, and I have been running my own business for 10 years, and I have been a merriment maker my whole life. I'm excited about making every day fun for people who don't really find it natural to see the sunny side of life, because honestly, I am one of them. I don't see the sunny side of life every day when I wake up. That's not who I am on my own, so I get it. I grew up with a lot of mental illnesses, and that made me understand that it's not easy for everybody to have a good day. And I know that good days lead to a good life. And the freedom to have fun may feel like it's a privilege to some, and it is to a degree. But I also know that if I can go from being addicted to drugs and being so dissociated that I would wake up in fields with my shoes off, and being addicted to drugs, multiple drugs, and being $10,000 in debt, and dating con men and con men and con men, and weighing 320 pounds, and self-harming and wanting to kill myself, and da 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 da, to going able to being able to have fun again, then I think that it's possible for us to turn the dial up for all of us on their enjoyment of life just a little bit, right? And maybe even a lot of bit, you know? So I want to share what helps me to have more fun. And I kind of feel like I'm a Mary Poppins, a Pippi Longstocking vibe, but just grounded a little bit more. And I also have 2 degrees in psychology. I worked at a psych rehab for 5 years. I'm a published author, if any of that stuff helps you. And I just want to show you what's in my magic carpet of wonderful tricks and understanding. And I'd love for you to just continue joining me in my merriment world of spreading joy. So you're already here, you're already doing that. Thank you so much. And let's keep going. We got LA, Alabama, another LA, and New Jersey. We got, okay, all right, like let's go. So we're gonna open your heart chakra now. So, okay, so you're just gonna repeat after me, all right? We're just getting kind of grounded and connected into your body. So let's do a big deep breath, feet on the floor. Another one. And now we're going to do some affirmations while we're kind of doing some hand motions on your torso. Okay, so we're going to do different variations of fists and open hands. So you're just going to watch me and repeat after me. Okay. So 2 fists first. We're kind of like activating our actual heart, our actual chest. My heart is open. I trust love. I trust myself. 1 fist moving it over towards the heart. I deserve love. Real love starts with me. I am open to letting love into my life. Flat palms. I am excited for all types of love coming into my life. I love myself unconditionally. I forgive myself for all the times I haven't been able to see how worthy I am of love. Flat palms, but on top and bottom. I know I am cherished. I am surrounded by love. The power of love is inside of me. Both hands on your heart. And now you don't have to repeat, you can just listen. I want you to feel the love. You can close your heart and imagine love, pink, white, red light, pick one, coming up through your feet, moving up towards your body, all the way up, toes, feet, legs, up to your butt, through your torso, up, coming in, radiating to your heart like a big bright light, like a starburst, and then coming up all the way to the top of your head, through it, shooting up like a light beam all the way up through the roof, through the sky, through the barrier of the earth, into the universe, all the way up into the stars, into the universe, because you are not alone. And it's connecting to the stars because we are all stardust and we are all here together and we are all love. And now I want you to chant with me the chant of the heart chakra, which is spelled like yams, but it's pronounced yam. And we're just going to say it 3 times. Yam, yam, yam. And now breathe in 3 times through your nose and out through your mouth on your pace. And on this last one, really sigh it out. Ah, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. How are you feeling? I had this fear while I started doing that I wasn't recording, and I did, so we're all good. And Mitzi is totally still a part of this. She is absolutely a merriment maker. Giuseppe, not so much, but don't worry about it. How do you feel? How do you feel? Do you feel lighter? Do you feel clearer? Do you feel energized? Do you feel sadder? Be honest. How do you feel? Any difference at all? Centered, clear, energized, grounded, tender, present. Beautiful. Lighter. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. All right, now we are going to do our intention setting. Get your candle, babes. All right, so if you have a candle, got a lighter, we're gonna do this. And, oh, if you feel lighter, grab your lighter. Ayo. All right, so I want you to think about what you wanna focus on today. Not necessarily what you want to accomplish, right? She's so attentive. Um, but what you want to put your energy towards, okay? What do you want to be deliberate about in reference to your concentration here today? Not just with your mind, but with your heart. An easy way to think about this is, what do you want to release? And what do you want to bring more in of? You know, another way to say that is, what do you not like? And what do you want more of? So maybe you want to release some grief. Maybe you want to release some heartbreak or some judgment or some criticism and um I don't know, just some negativity, like some things. You be as specific as you can, but I'm just giving you kind of like general ideas here. And maybe you want to bring in more confidence, more motivation, more acceptance, more money. I don't know. What is it that you want to do? So I want you to think about that right now. We're going to take a couple seconds, a minute to think about that. And I want you to figure out what it is that you want to declare of what your intention is. You can think about what you want to release and what you want to bring in. You don't have to have both, but I think it's good to think of both. And then I want you to write it down in the chat, write down what your intention is. And then after you do that, grab your candle, and it can be any size, doesn't matter, but you don't have to have the whole thing burned down for this to, be magic. Magic is whatever you believe in. And then you're going to have your candle, and I want you to light it, and I want you to speak your intention out loud as you light your candle. And then I want you to keep that intention. Listen to this part. This is important. I want you to keep that intention alive as we move through this workshop, because whatever information you hear from me, you will hear now being received through that lens of intention that otherwise might have slipped through. Now that you're declaring, bringing in clarity, letting go of grief, letting go of heartbreak, letting go of guilt, bringing in healing, love, and forgiveness, releasing tension, all of these things, you're going to perk up when you hear things that could apply to you through that lens. You know what I mean? It's like how when we are going through heartbreak, we hear songs come in and we're like, I didn't realize this song was about heartbreak. You know what I mean? So now I want you to be having this intention is so great, because now as we go through this, you might be like, oh, I could use that, in a very specific way. Okay. I love these intentions coming in. We're going to light our candle and say it out loud as you do it. And then we're going to trust Mitzi. No, we're not. We're going to put it over here. We're not trusting Mitzi. That's silly. We trust you with a lot of things, but not with the light. Sorry. Okay. And try to get as specific as you can with these, okay? So I know that for the chat, maybe you're doing it quickly, but release tension from what part of your body, what part of your life? Clarity, what do you want to be clearer on? Grief and heartbreak and guilt from what? Healing and love and forgiveness in what aspect for yourself? Fear and pain, what are you scared of? Creativity in what part of your life? Worry, what are you worried about? What do you want to be love in abundance for? Focus on you. How do you want to be focused on, right? So I'm already pushing you to be more specific, to be more intentional with your intentions. You don't have to write it down, but I want you to think about it. I want you to think about it, okay? All right. Moving on. There's a lot to get through. All right. So due to a Vitagene survey, 44% of people believe self-love is an important aspect of mental health, but only 13% of women say they practice self-love regularly and only 5% of men. So I want you to type a 1 if you believe self-love is important for mental health. And if you practice self-love regularly, type A. And if you don't, be honest, type B. So we're getting a lot of ones, all ones. Everybody's saying 1. And we're getting B, A, B, 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 A, B. Mostly Bs. Okay. Appreciate the honesty. Genuinely appreciate the honesty. Okay, so now let's take a look at these stats. from the self-love index. Oh my, what did I just do? Okay. So, according to the most recent data available, the average score on our self-love index was just 53 on a scale of 0 to 100. And that means that nearly 1 in 2 people around the world feel more self-doubt than self-love. So in the chat, type a exclamation point if you feel more self-love than self-doubt, and a question mark if you feel more self-doubt than self-love. Okay, that's actually kind of split. All of these are adding up based on the other statistics, so that's good. So here's some other stats you can see that, self-respect, we generally wish we had more respect for ourselves. Generation Z is falling into the lowest self-love group. Social media affects us, the countries, our genders, our age, our resilience, our age, our country, and our age, our country, and gender affects us. But when we have more self-love, we bounce back faster. People who gauge themselves as having a lot of self-love, the pandemic didn't affect them as much. So these are just interesting facts, just kind of like to have a grounded understanding of science and psychology as we are moving through this and understanding kind of like the problem of self-love, especially if you're new to this. Now, this is what this workshop today is based on. This quote from this author. So first of all, unconditional love, the definition that I'm using today is that you're loving someone no matter what they do, how they act, what they say, how they are, and not having an expectation of acknowledgement of your love or repayment. So do you guys feel like that's something that's easy for you? You could just say yes or no. Unconditional love, whether it's for yourself or somebody else. Like I feel like it's something that we maybe either are good at or aren't good at. I'm not very good at it. And then author Vera Nazarian has this quote that I really like, and it says what's on the screen. Love is made up of 3 unconditional properties in equal measure. 1, acceptance. 2, understanding. And 3, appreciation. Remove any of the 3 and the triangle falls apart, which, by the way, is something highly inadvisable. Think about it. Do you really want to live in a world of only 2 dimensions? So for the triangle, please keep love whole. Okay, a lot of you feel like you are really good at unconditional love. That's beautiful. Depends. Yeah, I feel like I can be unconditional love with my cat. um, and I feel like I have more unconditional love for myself than I actually can for other people. So it depends on who we are, and most people can actually do the other way. So it's very interesting. But today we're going to focus on unconditional love for ourselves. So what we're going to do is look at this quote, the 3 pillars, and we're going to take a look at these 3 properties of unconditional love as it relates to self-love and potential problems, issues, and roadblocks that might get in the way of each one. So then we're going to identify potential solutions of each of those problems and 3 ideas that you can try for each of those problems, okay? That's how this is broken down. So first, I just want to ask you, like, which of these 3, acceptance, understanding, or appreciation, do you feel like you already know is like your weakest point? Just as of right now, the way that you would imagine understanding it. And then we're going to plow through. Okay, so acceptance. One of the problems I identify being in the way of acceptance, you're very welcome, is our past wounds, our trauma, and resentment. So I believe that, we all have something that we dislike, that we hate, that we wish didn't happen to us. And sometimes it's a lot of some things, right? Sometimes it takes us years to be able to speak about them out loud or even remember them. And before and once we do acknowledge them or say anything about them, we are likely to feel very angry about the fact that these things happened and that, we lost a part of ourselves, whether it was a chunk of time, our childhood, our feeling of innocence, our faith, or something else. And whenever your understanding of reality shifts, I like to say that you need to process it just like any other grieving period, like a death. And That includes all the stages of grief, and many people don't think to incorporate additional stages of grief that I think are important, such as forgiveness and gratitude. And to pause for a moment, the reason that I'm bringing any of this up is because I think that it's almost impossible to move on with loving ourselves or to evolve to the level that we aspire to be as our individual person, um, if we have people, events, and blocks in our past that we continue to keep referring back to, not be able to move past, or subconsciously blame. There's a lovely part in this movie called The Night Before. It's a Christmas movie with where Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, he just keeps self-sabotaging himself. And his friends tell him that they really get how he's acting, they get it. But, like all these horrible things keep happening to him and he has this horrible past, but I really identify with his character, just all these things keep happening, right? And I feel like I've been him, in my life as like for a decade on and off. And some days I still am him. And then, in the movie, his friend says, "You have a good reason to make excuses. You do. It's just ruining your life." And that hit me really hard. So if you can identify with that character, you say something in the comments. But part of unconditional self-love for ourselves is taking radical responsibility for our future and doing the best for ourselves. And sometimes that means addressing the past. So depending on your situation, it can feel really overwhelming and even preposterous to consider forgiving anybody who was involved in what happened right now or ever. And your decisions are always your own. I can only speak for myself as well as people I've worked with, I've lived with, and I've known and loved personally, where the catharsis and release and relief seems to, time and time again, be more significant once we simply open up ourselves to the idea of being more likely to consider forgiving someone. You don't commit to it, you simply consider it. And through that consideration, your mind shifts a little bit. So, for example, when I did my intentional rage practice with this abusive ex that I got really angry. The unconditional three properties are acceptance, understanding, and appreciation. When I did this practice to try to to create a catharsis for my ex, I got really angry and I screamed everything I wanted to at a pillow. And then I got sad and I cried and it was good, but I didn't feel anything really shift in me until I started thinking about why he might have done it, why he might have made these choices, why someone who used to be a baby, just like me, just like anybody, could have done something this low, you know? Um, where did he learn this? What was he scared of? Did he know any better? What was he taught and shown? Could I see this from his perspective even 1%? So I kind of softened and I didn't forgive him, but I imagined what his life was like for just a second, and then what his life would be like after me. And then I just kind of felt sorry for him. And then what happened was I got angry again, and I realized I was actually mad at myself. And that was where the real forgiveness really needed to come from. So most of the time when we're angry, we need to go through this like deep scoop and peel through many layers to realize that all the resentment we've projected and pointed at a person isn't only at them. And there's a critic inside of us who feels like we should have known better somehow. Even though we wouldn't feel that way about our best friend or our partner or our mother in the exact same situation, but we're holding ourselves to a higher standard in this particular situation. And in this particular case, that higher standard is hurting us the most. The forgiveness we need the most is for ourselves. So how do you think you could start taking radical responsibility for your future and doing the best for yourself by addressing the past today? So what I want to propose are 3 ideas here to make a list of the reasons that you can't do things today because of the things that have happened to you in the past. So all the things where you, okay, I'm going to address this comment. Actually, this is a really good one. I can only do appreciation of the three. I intellectualize instead of accept. I get that. I think a lot of us are on that page. If you identify with Lori's comment, can you give us an acknowledgement here in the chat? I think a lot of us are in a state of analysis paralysis, over analyzing, over intellectualizing, using our logical brains. I think the people that I attract are people who want to believe in magic and also have this very scientific brain going on that's really interested in having theories and stuff that's like working for us, right? And these sides of our brains are not at war, but they're almost so equal that it's difficult to play. So I want to acknowledge this, and I want you to know that it's not even if you are mostly in the camp of like my boyfriend doesn't really, he's not like a split uh left right. Like I'm whenever I take those tests I'm like 50-50, right? But he would be like 100% left brain, right? And the intellectualization of something, I want you to, instead of being like, I can't do this because I do that, I want you to use that to your benefit. I want you to look at the way that this presentation is and take these tips right here, for example, and use logic to your benefit to point out the nonsense that's occurring in your life, right? So like, for example, if we were looking at like an inner critic situation, you can, I like to start with logic as the first point of reframing our thoughts, because I'm not trying to get you to go from like being uncomfortable with what's going on and like kind of shaming yourself into immediately loving yourself. It's a spectrum, it's a courtship, it's not something that happens overnight. And one of the best ways to do that is actually through just objectively stating the facts. And sometimes it takes us to shift the perspective of saying that we're doing that on behalf of someone else and giving those facts kind of like you would to a doctor or a lawyer, and pretending that this case is just a case study. So one of my favorite like examples or demonstrations of this is an episode of Scrubs where Dr. Turk, he is resistant to the fact that he has diabetes. He has, hold on, my heat just kicked on. Sorry, I forget that that's a thing. It's so loud. He resists the fact that he has diabetes because it's a personal issue to him. He's too close to it, but he's an amazing doctor. So that he won't just like get treated for it. So another doctor walks up to him completely out of context, lists the symptoms that Dr. Turk has, and says, "Oh, I have this patient that's experiencing this. What would you prescribe, or how would you diagnose him?" And he says, "Easy, he's got diabetes." And then he goes, "Oh." So a lot of the tips that I give you, like I said, I am Mary Poppins, but I'm also a more grounded Mary Poppins. I'm optimistic, but I'm realistic. And a lot of the things that I'll give you here today, the tangible tips, the grounded stuff, I don't ever leave you with like building you up at like a personal development seminar and then sending you off and then you get home and you're like, what do I do? I want you to have these things, these slides that look like this with the 3x3 grid here. These are the ones where you want to pay attention into like, how do I integrate this? There's insights, there's knowledge, there's doing, and there's being. And if you can't move from the insights into the knowledge into the doing, you just have a notebook folder full of ideas and it doesn't mean anything. It's just shelf knowledge. So this idea of kind of switching it over into someone else's issue, changing it into someone else's perspective and being like, okay, if I literally take the exact same thing that someone else does or has that problem, um, what would I tell them to do? Now, in terms of adding in an emotional element to it, that is where you get an element of connecting to your body. And that is, I have a whole embodiment module, but that is more of an element of actually physically engaging your body and your emotions. So, but other than that, I want you to just like, it's more of like the application, because if you're only staying in the mind, then it's likely that you're in the insight knowledge phase and you have all the lists, but there's not really an application of the doing. And we all get stuck there. So if I didn't address that issue, please let me know, but let me know. Okay. So here are the tips for that section. Make a list of the reasons why you can't do something. So like maybe you feel like because this happened before, I can't ever do this again. I feel like I'm unable to da da da. I don't know how to this. I'm never going to be able to do this again, and be exhaustive with it. And then I want you to journal or speak out loud to, you don't have to do it. When I say to the, I don't mean like go find them. I mean like write a letter to them that you're never going to send. I mean like speak it out loud to the wall. You know what I mean? But do it like you're talking to them. I don't mean go find them and create a conflict. I mean, um, you know, talk directly to them as if they were there and tell them what they did, how, the things that they did to you. Tell them why you're angry, how these things affected you, and then try to imagine what I was trying to explain earlier about like how can you imagine how they got to this point in their life? Like, how messed up did things have to be for them to imagine that what they did was okay? You know, how maybe this was the only option for them. And can you imagine like 1% seeing things from their perspective? And then write a journal entry to yourself or say it out loud in the mirror. You don't have to journal everything. Journaling isn't the answer for everybody. I like to say things out loud. Forgiving yourself. And then tell yourself, you know, you're doing the best you can. And if you need help, write, like I said, a letter to the person that you love most in the world and pretend that they're having the exact same situation as you. Pretend that they told you everything that happened to you happened to them and that they are distraught with grief and shame and blame and believing that everything that happened in their life is completely their fault because of what happened. And now I want you to think about what you would say to them. And that's what you say to you. Okay. And I also want you to know that I have existing resources that are made for these problems. Like I have a ready to go forgiveness script. I have a somatic awareness guided practice. Like if you're stuck in intellectualization, I have an entire embodiment module, which has things like the somatic awareness practice, the trauma embodiment practice, our podcast. Um, there's 20 resources in there. Actually, I think there's 40. There's how to release blame and get your power back workshop. There's an entire releasing anger module. There's uncovering fear with a forgiveness podcast, how to have empathy for anyone podcast, forgiveness affirmations, a regrets lecture, how to bring merriment to conflict. There's the sword archetype. There's if you have a caregiver complex, I talk about that. So there's a bunch of stuff available for you if you need assistance with any of these. Okay, the next problem in the way of acceptance, as I see it, is scolding and shaming ourselves. So by now you're probably really familiar with the term inner critic and self-talk, but I just want to zoom out a little further and discuss why this is happening and where it's coming from. So ultimately at the core of your inner monologue, dialogue, critic, and negative self-talk is a sense of not just low self-worth and self-esteem, but a feeling of shame. The shame is coming from not believing that the way you are naturally is okay, good enough, or acceptable in general, overall, you know, or as perceived by somebody else, or, you know, by a particular person or society at large, or in a specific situation that you're in, like a job or a relationship. And when I say that we have shame from not believing the way that we are is naturally okay, I mean that the way that we feel, the way that we look, the way that we want to behave. That's what I mean by the way. So tangible examples of this would be like if you're crying or showing that you're excited really often and you're told that those are inappropriate expressions of emotion, or you don't want to go to college or have kids or own a house or join your family business and you're being told like those are just things people do and you're like I don't know why, or with the way that you are looking in comparison to the ever morphing Western standard of physical beauty, you will never have your entire physical body naturally line up with what is currently in trend. You know, whether you are overtly told we will disown you, or you are passively aggressively shunned based on what you do, or you are covertly and subliminally shown what is and isn't acceptable for someone like you will slowly become brainwashed into believing that even if you do decide to still keep your way about you, that you will probably want to hide it from other people just so it's easier, you know? And definitely at least not share it and be proud about it because you won't have to deal with the reactions, the commentary, the conversations, etc. So, as I'm talking about that, what's coming up for you about the way that you are? Share in the chat, like, do you have you come to believe or agree, or maybe in the past, that there is something about you that's too much or not enough or weird about you that you eventually like decided that it was just easier to keep in the shadows? And I'm going to keep talking as you do that. So, this slow conversion of taking things away and hiding them apart in your life is what we call masking in psychology. And I believe that over time, masking develops internal shame, even if it's done with the intent to preserve our own desires and way of life. So, whenever you feel pressured to take something you love into the shadows, you erode your worth and a piece of yourself. And over time, this builds levels of shame, even if it's unintentionally. And that shame is what fuels the engine of your inner critic, your self-deprecation, and the scorning of yourself. That's that's why I believe it's so important for us to encourage ourselves to be weird, like whatever the version of ourselves that's weird or unique. I believe the reclaiming of things that we've been taking into the shadows, that way about us that we have masked, and bringing it back out into the light and putting it on a shelf, playing with it, photographing it, throwing a party for it, dancing with it, and celebrating it is one of the fastest ways to dismantle shame and build up acceptance. I'm too much for most people, not the right people notice me. Okay, so tell me how. Tell me how you're too much for people. Can you explain that? I've noticed it's somewhat normalized to be self-deprecating. I embrace my oddness. This keeps me to myself. Okay. Can you explain what makes you odd? And do you feel like do you feel pressured to stay to yourself because of what makes you odd? And yeah, I think it is becoming normalized to be self-deprecating. It's like we all have realized that we're all going to be made fun of in some way, and we can't take the pressure of it. So we're all going behind the scenes with something. So if we do bring anything out in the shadows, we have to front load with it and make fun of it before anyone else can. So I think the act of rebellion, the brave, vulnerable thing to do, is to not disclaim, is to not proclaim something as weird, is to not be self-deprecating, is to not make a joke about the fact that, oh yeah, I know it's weird, but it's just to say nothing. It's to do it. It's to do the thing that makes you feel good, to do the thing that other people have said is odd, that other people have said is too much, not enough, strange, weird, bizarre, crazy, whatever. And then when people inevitably say something, if they do, you just blink back at them. Okay. And when we give in to people making fun of us with a self-deprecating joke, that affirms the fact that it's weird and that we know it's weird. But if we don't, and we are just like, okay, then it's weird that they think it's weird. And that's what we need more of. When you allow yourself to be made fun of, I know that's a strange thing. When you give in with a self-deprecating joke, you kind of let them win. I want you to practice standing firm, to bring the things that you love out from the shadows, to not stop being yourself, to do all of these things. Let's see. Standing up for what you believe in, not afraid to tell people what you think, understanding yourself, enjoy playing in the snow. Okay, yeah, that's great. I just played in the snow. I made little ducks out there. Yeah, I mean, a lot of things that I tend to find are things that aren't adult, you know, and if something isn't adult, productive, part of a hustle culture, it tends to be bizarre. If something is purely for enjoyment or play, it's critiqued. So don't stop. And I just like to say, like, why are you doing that? And I just say, I don't know. What are you up to? Why aren't you doing this? Do you want to join? Like, I usually just flip it. What are you doing? What are you up to today? Because people like to think that what they're doing is so important, but usually their answer is something really silly, really boring. And I'm not trying to judge them. I'm just trying to let them know that what you're doing isn't more important than me. And if you'd like to join me, you can. So try to not stop what you're doing, be inclusive, and not let the fact that what you're doing is going to be judged stop you from doing it. Because here's the thing, Taylor Swift right now, I'm sorry, is the most popular person in the world, right? And people still hate what she's doing. The most popular person in the world, popular meaning liked, is still deeply hated, right? So the point is that you're going to be judged and made fun of no matter what you do. So do it. Okay, where was I at? So when I said bringing stuff out of the shadows, the way that you are, the things that you've masked, bringing it out to play, to photograph it, to celebrate it, what came to your mind? Is there something that you're still not letting play? Do you want to have a display of stuffed animals? Do you want to bring back dancing or singing or going to a class? Do you want to do something more childlike? Do you want to start dressing in a certain way? Is there a part of you that's missing having a spotlight on it? And what came to your mind, and how can you pull that part of you out from the shadows and into the sunlight? How can you play with it and let it be seen? Tell us in the comments. All right, so some tangible ideas. Make a list of things that you were told have been too much, not enough, or weird about you. Maybe it's hobbies, feelings, personality traits, body parts, anything. And then after you make that exhaustive list, add a star to the ones that you have accommodated or masked as a result of feedback from others. So meaning like things that you have, kind of taken into the shadows. And then go through it again and add a second star to things that you would like to do, be, feel, or start again if there was no complaints. If no one ever gave you grief or shit about it again, what if you could just start it and there would be no problems? What would you do? And then go through that and find something that's double starred and imagine again that your friend is in the exact same situation and they found out that, oh, let's see. My sexual side, love it. Okay, so imagine that your friend is you know they're telling you they sent you a text and they're just like, dude, I am I really want to just bring out my sexual side. And I feel really weird about it because I've been told my whole life that it's weird, it's too much, and maybe I'm like strange with it. And I've hidden this part of myself away for so long. And I'm this old now, and I really just want to do it. And honestly, I feel really stuck about it, and I don't know what to do. And now it's your job to write to your best friend. And you can also use me if you don't have somebody to write about. Use me as the person that you're writing to. And write a letter full of ideas about how they could realistically bring that back into their life today. Step by step, ideas. What is the answer? And don't do it for you, do it for somebody else. And then you got to put it on a calendar once a month. Do one thing from that list and celebrate that part of yourself. Start somewhere. Okay, and then resources I have for this: being kind to your inner critic. I have a positive self-talk masterclass. I have a positive self-talk worksheet, inner critic worksheet. I have whole modules on radical self-love, self-esteem, and self-confidence. That means like 20 resources on each of these things. Positive affirmations out the wazoo. I have upbeat audio positive affirmations and pep talks, and I have EFT tappings. We're going to do one of those together later, but there's a bunch of pre-recorded guided ones on releasing old ideas and bringing in more of what you want. And those are all inside the Merriment Makers. Okay. I love my display of stuffed animals. Yeah, me too. Okay. Problem in the way of understanding. Having high expectations and needing to go through something immediately. So when we begin any part of any growth process, aka acknowledging that we want to start doing something that we haven't done before, whether that's like bringing part of our truest selves back out of the shadows, like we just talked about, or starting a new workout or beginning any new habit, it's going to suck at first, or at least in the very beginning. It's just going to be uncomfortable. Discomfort is key in every single new thing in life. There is almost no good thing in your life today where the first time you did it, you didn't suck at it. You weren't a little nervous. There wasn't some adrenaline flowing. You didn't fall down, or you just didn't have to build a skill. That's how life is. Think of something that you love, and I challenge you to come up with one thing that doesn't meet one of those criteria. With most goals, the majority of people give up on guess what day? Day 2. That's real. I don't believe our attention spans are actually physically shrinking as a result of the technology that we have at our disposal, like some people do. But I do hypothesize that our threshold for patience is dwindling as a society. So be honest in the chat. Can you think of a time in the past 6 months where you thought of something that you wanted to try and you did it, maybe even New Year's, right? That was a big time for goals, where you wanted to try something and maybe you did it on the first day. Maybe you didn't even do it on the first day, but then you didn't do it the next day. I'll start. I said that I wanted to start meditating and then I just didn't. Like, did you want to say you wanted to write in your journal every day on January 1st? And then like on Friends, she's like, nothing, right? It's okay. We've all done it. Let's remove this stigma and the shame and tell each other what it is. I told you, I'm not meditating. Come on. I don't believe you. Learning to crochet. It's been frustrating. Yep. Doing necessary things for our physical health. Yep. Yep. So because we are all in this like instantaneous click it, get it, microwavable, highlight real world, we have these high expectations, more so than ever, of being able to get most things done immediately. And that's true for a lot of things. We're really lucky, honestly. I can get food faster to my door than ever. Yoga every day. Ha. I like the ha at the end of it. But some things we're just still not able to fast forward through. You can't fast track it. And, you know, relationships, including the one with yourself, it's not one of them. We can't fast forward through it. You still need to put in the time whenever emotions are involved. So this is about shifting your expectations from, I started this thing and I'm so smart and capable and I should have the results change my life by next week. Otherwise, I am quitting, to because I am smart and capable, I understand that something that will change my life is going to take time and it's going to be really uncomfortable, especially at first. I'm excited at the possibilities for how my life can get even better. And I know it's more important to me to be consistent and go deep than to go fast and be superficial. I expect this to be challenging and take as long as it needs to take. I also commit to doing the work because I'm worth it. So in the chat, how does it feel to imagine and expect the thing that you want to be challenging? How does it feel to expect that it's going to take longer? Does that make you feel more or less anxious? Any other feelings come up? Tell us. Started doing my daily checklist again. It's actually helped me get more accomplished, but I do beat myself up when I don't do them. Healthy routines, eating the meal plan, limited time home dissociating actually makes me feel less anxious. This feeling reminds me of, so I live in Baltimore and most people would go to Ocean City for vacation in the summer. And you have to go over the Bay Bridge to get there. And it's not halfway there, but it's a road mark when you get to the Bay Bridge. Now, if I were to drive to the Bay Bridge from my house right now to the Bay Bridge, it would be about an hour. If I'm driving from here to Ocean City, it's like, I don't know, 3.5 hours. But when I'm driving to Ocean City, by the time I get to the Bay Bridge, it doesn't really feel like anything. It feels like just part of the plan. It feels exciting even. We're at the Bay Bridge. We made it so far. We know we've got a lot more to go, but it doesn't feel like that long of a drive. By the time I've seen the little exits before the Bay Bridge, I'm not really freaking out. It doesn't feel like anything. I'm just kind of in the car. But if I'm just going to the exit before the Bay Bridge or something, like that's my end point. The drive to the Bay Bridge feels long. And it's because I've extended my drive, my route, my journey. So instead of expecting, it's the same amount of distance, you know what I mean? But because I have a longer destination in mind, this little road mark it feels completely different. A 60-minute drive feels long because it's the whole thing. Parkinson's law. Everything will take as long as it takes. So if you say, this is going to be challenging, this is going to take a long time, instead of being like, why isn't this done yet? I believe it might actually limit your anxiety. Now, when you feel yourself resisting to wanting to do the work or move forward, I think that's good. Notice it. That's part of the discomfort. You're not really supposed to want to do it, honestly. If you did, it would already be done. And if it was easy, everybody would do it. This is about having a beautiful, lovely, above average, magical life. So I want you to think about that and tell yourself that inertia is on your side once you get moving. And I want you to think about what you want and how you are capable of this. It only feels big in your head. It only feels like the Bay Bridge. I want you to think about how it's not really as hard as you're making it seem. Most things are bigger in our minds. And even if it is hard, you can do hard things. Write out a letter to yourself that shifts your expectations and declares that you're understanding the commitment to the challenge. Schedule time for when you're going to dedicate yourself to whatever tasks and challenges you're working on and be firm with your schedule and boundaries. Decide on a time frame that you always show up for, whether it's daily, weekly, or monthly. Also, create a self-care kit for when you need aftercare from your challenge. And don't forget to be kind to yourself when things are difficult. In the Merriment Makers, I have all of these tips and resources for ways to confront your fear, like real life challenges, a Be Brave podcast. I have a whole module on fear, Roots of Fears worksheet, how to make a goal outside of your comfort zone podcast, an anger release technique section of cognitive reframing, relaxation, disruption, and holistic radical self module, a judgment tarot card reading, EFT on judging others. There's a kindness module, how to stay in the enjoyment podcast, motivation and procrastination module, why you're really scared to connect to your body podcast, and mindfulness journaling prompts. Okay, next up is appreciation. The problem in the way of this, as I see it, is disenchantment. At some point, being told that what we knew wasn't true from an adult or someone that we trusted happened. And it might have been that Santa wasn't real, or that someone you saw wasn't there, or that it wasn't important to be excited about insects. But adding that on top of masking stuff that we feel good about and hiding your favorite parts of yourself in the shadows is a way to learn to not trust yourself. And if you have a mental illness or a physical illness that compiles and compounds into a feeling of like not knowing how to trust yourself or your body and feeling like it's betraying you. And then top that off with there being systemic sepsis, with how our governments work and corporations that we work for run, and then the news and the media constantly slanting the news to showcase more negative events instead of the positive, we're really prone to, you know, become cynical and disenchanted with life. So I want you to start focusing on what you can control, which is making your inner child happy. But it's really not just that. It's not only inner child work. It's about really moving from the spectrum of cynicism and disenchantment to the idea of becoming delighted at the idea of making ourselves feel good. So it's not just about the end result of feeling good after whatever it is that you're doing. It's about the fact that you love that you get the opportunity to even get to make yourself feel good. So we're introducing this mindset that you get to become an enthusiast about your own well-being. You get to become an aficionado of you. You are a professor and a student of making yourself happy. And whatever makes you excited, happy, passionate are books that go into this like curated library, and it's named after you. And you get to go in every single day and check out books that you get to learn about. And that's like your job now. And you get to figure out how to go from knowing to implementing and experiencing that joy that's caused by the information that you find in these books. So in the chat, what books would be in the curated library of you? What do you want to check out first? How can you get excited about the process of making you feel happy? How can you delight in your own well-being and celebrating your inner child? This is all connected. So write down what would it feel like or look like to become delighted at the idea of making yourself feel good. And then the next time you notice yourself thinking the worst about someone or something or yourself, try to give the benefit of the doubt and think about how this could have happened in a way where it wasn't personal, or there was an outlier weirdo situation, or you could just empathize with it. And also try giving your 5-year-old self control over your to-do list. Let them see it, like look at it as if you're 5 and be like, can you explain this to your 5-year-old self? Like, why is it that you have to do da 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 da? And if you can't explain it, maybe it's not something that is high priority. Not, I mean, I know that you can't explain everything to a 5-year-old, but like if you can't rationalize the fun behind it or the real truth behind it, and then if you still have to do that thing, how can you make the activity even more fun? And then resources I have for this are modules on the inner child, how to have fun, celebrating pleasure, and dress for joy. So all of those, I have 20 resources. There's also Reclaiming Your Magic workshop, removing limiting beliefs for being a star for your own movie, challenges on how to have fun, embody joy challenges, have fun permission slip, an enchantment module. There's a new thing called How to Have Fun at Work game plan. There's an embodiment module, an optimism module, and in the kindness masterclass, we talk about how to have faith in humanity. Oops. All right, last one before we move on. The other problem I see in the way of appreciation is a lack of focus and people pleasing. So one of the biggest reasons I get in response to any activity, assignment, or even reframe of mind is that there isn't enough time. So I'm going to give you some not tough, but true love. This is almost everybody's situation. I know you might not believe that, but it's true. And even once we change situations from a new job or a place or whatever, we adapt to the new pot that we are planted in. It's just the transitional phase that's the worst part for everybody. If right now I changed your life to a completely different job with 10 more hours a week and gave you a new pet to take care of, it would really suck. You would be exhausted for weeks, and then you would adapt out of necessity because that's what happens. It wouldn't be good, but it would happen. The problem is that we don't really create a new environment for ourselves to adapt in the first place on our own initiative. We don't really throw ourselves into the deep end enough. And the truth is that most of the time, this deep end idea isn't really a fair comparison to what our goals really are in terms of what we want or need to do. What we want to do is maybe add a half hour of self-care into your day, or maybe put a mailing list into your business or something. And we act like these skills or these tasks are equivalent to going to war, but they're not really. And when it comes to time, there is something, like I mentioned earlier, called Parkinson's Law, which states that a task will take the amount of time that we give ourselves to do it. And this is why we could do things early, but we wait until the deadline to finish them. And this also applies to dreams and lofty ideas without a plan. If you have an idea that you want to become more confident, or start a self-care routine, or release judgment, but don't have a plan for it, or you don't have a goal, or you don't have, or sorry, if you have an idea for it, but you don't have a plan for it, then you don't actually have a goal. You just have an idea. So in the chat, how often do you wait until the last minute or the night before you complete a project? I do it all the time. Oh, I love this book list. Books about giant bubbles, secret passageways to marvelous oasis, and a giant room full of plushies and a mega bed. I love imagining what the actual library would look like. That's beautiful. Okay, we're getting consistent deadline pushers. Okay. So if that's the case, then do you think that there's a possibility that if your behavior does align with that Parkinson's law thing, that could also apply to not being deliberate with the way that you make your dreams into goals with deadlines and schedules? You know, like if you don't have a deadline and a schedule, then you're probably not going to also follow through with that if you're not keeping up with your own deadlines until you have to. So basically, if you haven't written it down as a plan, you have a 90% failure rate. That is a research-based fact. So now I want you to come back to your intention. Look at your candle from the beginning of this workshop, and I want you to think about what you wanted to let go and or add more of into your life. How can you quantify that and schedule it in a tangible way? How can you get more intentional about your intention? How can you say, this is when I want to do it? This is when it's going to happen. This is when I'm committing to it. This is what I need from it. I'm not just going to say that I'm going to feel good. I'm going to say, this is how I'm going to feel good, and this is how I'm going to make it happen, and this is what it means. I'm not saying that I'm going to walk, or I'm not going to say I'm going to move my body more. I'm going to say I'm going to walk 4 times a week. You know what I mean? I want you to get specific. I want you to get real. And if you want, you can write it down and we can make sure it's good. And I also want you to ask yourself, does it feel fun? Does it feel exciting? Does it make you feel a little nervous? Because it should do all of those things. If it doesn't, I need you to adjust it. Start where you can and understand that you do need boundaries for your goal. Because if you don't make this a priority, you will not be happy. And I need to remind you that if you aren't happy, you're wasting your life. I know it can get really easy to get lost in the minutia of everyday life and be like, I can't today because I said I would give this person a ride and I have to go grocery shopping and then I'm going to be tired. I have to get up early tomorrow. And when are we going to clean the basement? I need to clean the basement. And the logistics of life become daunting and they drown out the big picture. And I get it. But you need reminders like this, that this is the only life you are aware of. The clock is ticking. You could fall down and die later today. Whenever I'm in my car and I'm just going down the street, sometimes I think about not plugging in my music because I'm like, oh, it's just a mile. And then I think about how that's insane because if this was my last 5 minutes on earth, I would want to make sure that I was listening to music. I would not want to die musicless. I would want to do it enjoying life as much as I could. And even if all I can control about that in this moment is making sure I have my music on and my windows down, then I'm going to do it. You can't live every day like it's your last, but you also can't live like you're never going to die. I encourage you to do a reset this week. I want you to think about what would happen if someone or you got really sick or something bad happened and how your life would need to open up out of necessity. Sometimes that's the only way that we can think about it, is if like a tragedy happens. What would have to fall away? Restructure your life, strip things down. We don't really need to do more, we need to do less. Maybe the reason you don't have time for yourself is because your current schedule is currently out of control in the name of others. So if you are in a season of your life where you don't really have the ability to strip things back any further, like you have a toddler or you're taking care of a sick parent or something, my suggestion is to think about how to make each moment count, how to include the people that are in your life with you in your experience if you can communicate to them, or the people that are around you helping take care. Let them know what you're feeling, and if they can understand, share that you do want to have more fun in these micro moments, and also know that this is a season that it will stop and it'll change. But also, don't jump to that. Don't jump to say that this is, if it's not that kind of thing for you, I want you to still really look at your schedule. I want you to ask yourself, how can you not burn out? How can you not say yes to everything? What would happen if you weren't there this week to take care of this? Tell us in the chat, what would happen if you weren't there this week to take care of it? It would suck. But would the world keep spinning? What creative solutions would need to be found? And can they be found? Because if you burn out, that will be the situation out of necessity. So taking care of yourself and prioritizing your own joy is what's going to keep not just you running, but the whole ship. That's why I say feel good so you can do good. If you need to recalibrate the whole thing so there's not a systemic sepsis in your life that's running on your own overgiving, that needs to be done. So look at your weekly schedule and see what would happen if you couldn't show up for it. If you had to call out from everything in an emergency, what would the creative solutions need to be? Try it. Any ideas about what would be nice to have or any intentions you set from this workshop, I want you to write down as goals with deadlines and schedules, and create boundaries for those goals in terms of what you need with support, whether that's baby or pet sitting, supplies, privacy, transportation, to accomplish those goals. And I want you to communicate that to anyone around you that it affects. So keeping a gratitude journal. Okay, I have resources on how to keep a gratitude journal. You can type in gratitude journal uncustomary in Google and that should come up. I want you to establish when you're going to write, what time of day. I want you to establish a minimum effort, how many things you are going to write each day, even when you feel sad, and start today. I want to exercise twice a week and choose the form of exercise intuitively based on what I feel like I need that day. Dance, walk, yoga, Pilates twice a week. Great. You might want to think about what days of the week work best for you and then have a fallback day. Anybody else that wants to share what their goals are, that would be great. Having goals is really great because it means you believe in yourself and your capabilities. And here are some resources I have for this. Tapping around guilt about saying yes, please all the time. Passion module, filling yourself with meaning visualization, creating boundaries worksheet, boundaries journaling and prompts and affirmation, a reparenting masterclass, creative challenges and ideas and for hobbies and how to spend time alone. Okay, so if you feel like you have been trying to fit into a world that wasn't made for you, like you are left-handed in a world that's been, filled with right-handed scissors, and you have quirks and eccentricities, autism, mental illness, chronic pain, or you're too short, too tall, too sensitive, too loud noises, or sensitive to emotions, too logical, too pale, too ambitious, or too satisfied, too anything, too weird, then I want to tell you about my memberships. So this one is called the Feel Good Troop, and this is a monthly membership with theory and tangibility, just like we did today, where I, give you the ideas and the steps with resources and accountability that you need to get your life to a place where you feel happy, loved, and supported, regardless of your stress, grief, circumstances, or diagnoses. And I know that life is already difficult, but the world is more difficult for difficult people, different people. That it feels like we're difficult people sometimes. I'll tell you that. People make us feel like we're difficult people. So I want to really prioritize our mental health. And there's this is a new membership, and it's very accessible with the price point, and it's got mental health game plan audio programs. There's mental health master classes every quarter. There's still the group coaching Q&A, and there's 28 master classes. So basically you are getting, these are some of the master classes that you get when you go in there. And if you were to buy them individually, they'd be $88. So right now that's over $2,000 in master classes. And this is the tagline, the Feel Good Troop, where different is just right. And, I basically, it's like getting the meat of the Merriment Makers for like 10% of the price. That's basically what it is. The Merriment Makers is a huge conglomeration. Like all those resources that I was listing, you get all of that and more, way more when you're in the Merriment Makers. And when you're in the Feel Good Troop, you get a lot, but it's kind of like dipping your toes in, seeing what's available and still getting a lot of stuff. But it's much, much, much cheaper. And it's because I really do want to make sure that everything is accessible to everybody. So here's some testimonials. Big thank you for a great course that changed my attitude towards gratefulness completely. You transformed a must into a may, which is a fantastic new kind of freedom I've never known. Thank you again, and keep the good work going. If you mix all the joy of Lisa Frank, the upbeat attitude of Amy Poehler, and the whimsy of Willy Wonka, you get Uncustomary. Her posts and blog are so great to get you thinking about self-care and being a mentally healthy human and learning to accept the magic that is you. Definitely check her out if you need a boost. I'm so glad that I found the Uncustomary site. The resources, you have outdone yourself. I'm a member of the Merriment Makers and Operation Merriment. I went crazy and started buying all the classes. Also, the first 20 people that subscribe today will get a free 20-minute audio coaching session with me. And you can find the sign up page for this at the Feel Good Troop. So I just wanted to introduce that to you. Oh, is that not a link? I have to type in the whole thing. It's very silly. There you go. So you can check that out. And also you get access to one of my very popular e-courses, the Relieve Anxiety e-course and 5 cents of every dollar of the membership is donated to NAMI. And if you're wondering what the difference is between this and the Merriment Makers membership, the mental health audio program and quarterly masterclass are exclusive to the Feel Good Troop. So that can only be accessed in that program. So you can be a member of both if you want to. But yeah, it's basically 90% off for the general stuff. Okay, so now let's talk about solo dates. Okay, so the first thing you want to do with a solo date or solo adventure is to assess your current comfort level. Think about like going to the movies alone or something, and then just think about how that makes you feel. And do you cringe at the idea of people seeing you in a theater alone, or does that, getting a whole tub of popcorn make you feel really excited because you're not gonna have to share it with anybody? And, just kind of really assess that level for yourself and what it is that you might want to do and just start imagining doing those things and get a good idea of where you might want to start. And you want to go a little bit out of your comfort zone, but you don't want to like throw yourself into the deep end without those little floaty arm things. And then you want to designate a time to do it. And it's really, really important for your first time, especially because with anything else, we need the deadlines, we need the scheduling the same way you would with a friend. Put it on your calendar, mark yourself as unavailable. I'm dinner with myself, I can't cancel again. And then once you start, you figure out like what a good schedule would be for yourself. And this is a way that, it doesn't have to be something that's all, I do really encourage everybody to leave the house and go interact with the world, but this can also be whatever it is that feels good to you, right? Like we've been talking about ways to celebrate your weirdness, ways to celebrate the parts of you that you've put in the shadows. And maybe that is like, I don't know, anything. It can literally be anything. So whatever that is, it's just making time for yourself. So this can all be connected and a way to just make sure that that is happening. Um, have an activity idea, but also just be open to spontaneity. So if you have no idea where to start, in your workbook, you have 50 ideas along with a lot of other things in there. There's quite a few things in your workbook. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it's good to have a fallback thing, or an intentional thing that you're starting to do. But if something sparks your interest with curiosity, with spontaneity, with just the world, let yourself go with it and be drawn to whatever is innately interesting to you, and know that you don't have to answer to anybody and you can just go do whatever, magpies your interest. And also turn your phone off. Don't be on a solo date while texting somebody else. That's not okay. It's not nice to you. So you can have your phone, but put in airplane mode and you can use it as a camera or GPS or whatever you want to do. Okay. But no communication. Just be with yourself. And then afterwards, reflect and learn. Like really think about how that went. Did you maybe journal, have you have an internal monologue, you can talk it out with a friend, like figure out what you found exhilarating and what you found enjoyable, and were there things that you were surprised that you were able to do alone. um do you feel like you can push yourself further next time? Like, instead of eating alone at Panera, could you sit down at a fancy restaurant, or was it just like way too scary and you want to try something a little bit more safe for you next time? Okay, I'm trying to think of a realistic expectation for a gratitude journal. Any ideas? Sometimes I make expectations too high for longevity. I think I have, like I mentioned, I have an article on this, but I say 3 things every day is a good. Type in uncustomary plus gratitude journal into Google and it should pop up with 10 tips. But very high on the SEO. But it I say three things a day and every day. Yeah. Also, as your minimum. And then once you start doing it, you might end up doing a page. But if you just have 3 things, that's what I usually recommend to people. You can also do a pre-date, like getting yourself, wooing yourself. So you could like send yourself flowers or pick flowers or get dressed up, write yourself a love note or a poem, make a playlist, cover the house in post-it notes of positivity, or write on the mirror, get yourself chocolate or a treat and say, I love you in a mirror. You could even like lay on the bed and feed yourself grapes like you're a goddess, whatever you want to do. But like you can romance yourself a little bit too, or whatever feels good to you. I also want to remind you that, I know it's Valentine's Day and that we're doing like how to be your own Valentine, but this all applies to all types of love. Like we have all types of love. And you know, dating yourself doesn't need to be romantic, it doesn't need to be sexual. There's a million types of love, maybe not a million, I don't know, but there's self-love, there's friend love, there's family love, blood love, blood family, there's chosen family, there's significant others, there's lovers, there's play partners, there's ancestors, there's spirits, there's animals, there's community, there's spirituality, there's religions, there's knowledge, career, art, nature, magic, music, humanity. There's a lot of different kinds of loves. And I want to encourage you to, if you have like a negative association with Valentine's Day, I get it. It's a very large marketed kind of thing. But if you reclaim it into a way where you are not just feeling pressured to make sure that you are coupled and sexual and romantic and engaged and whatever, and you make it more about celebrating love and whatever that means to you and sharing it across the board, then you can, I believe, do what I did and find a new sense of resurgence and connection to Valentine's Day. And then find a new reason to use all those hearts that are in the store because there are some really cute stickers out there. Um, okay, what else do we got? Oh, we're gonna tap now. Okay. So I'm gonna stop sharing this. Okay, so if you've never tapped before, you're just gonna follow along with me and tap on your body where I'm tapping and um say what I say when I say it. You want to drink some water. And if you have any like weird jewelry or glasses or anything, you want to um remove those because it might be a little weird. Also, when I get to this point, this is where I'm tapping. It's like just like on the side of your ribs right here. Sometimes that's hard to see if you've never tapped before. Okay. So we're going to start here. For the setup, take a deep breath. Unconditional love. What does that even mean? To accept something completely as it is. To not let my mind judge it. To be honest. I don't think my judgments are always bad, though. I think it's healthy to let myself judge things. At least sometimes. I mean, if I didn't judge whether food was expired, I would get sick. Sometimes judgment keeps me safe. I don't think anything is totally good or bad, but maybe that's the point. Maybe the point of unconditional love is to understand that I'm not totally good or bad either. But sometimes I feel like I'm more bad than good. I use the logic side of my brain to build up a case of evidence against myself. And then I stack up all that evidence. and start believing that I'm not good. Not good enough, not smart enough, not successful enough, not pretty enough, not skinny enough, or cool enough, or sexy enough, or whatever enough. And it makes me really sad. But that's not how I feel about other people or cats or hedgehogs. I honestly don't really have very strong opinions on hedgehogs. I'm pretty sure they're just out there doing their own thing. So why can't I be out there just doing my own thing? You know, some indigenous cultures believe that humans are like plants, that we're here just to exist. And we don't necessarily need to strive for more, that we're no different than a leaf or a hedgehog. And whatever we did today was just fine. When we photograph a cat yawning, they didn't do anything other than just being a cat. Or celebrating them existing. And it's time to celebrate myself existing. So maybe unconditional love is just about reframing my thinking that however I exist is beautiful. So I'm declaring an intention today that I am willing to believe even 1% differently, even if it's uncomfortable. That however I exist is beautiful. All right, take a breath, take a break, drink some water. That's just the setup. We're not done. Let me know how you're feeling in the chat. Feeling grateful. All right. Oh, love existing with you all right now. I love it. All right, let's go. I am beautiful. I am doing great. I am so freaking cool. People ask me what I did today. And my answer was, I was me. You know, when people say to Beyonce, "You're Beyonce." And she says, "Thank you." That's my new energy. I am me. And that's so amazing. many people in my ancestry had to be born and not die and get pregnant and survive childbirth in environments without running water during a war just for me to be here, existing with you all right now. And if thousands of people in my lineage can do that before me, I know I am strong. It is literally in my blood. And today, on this day of love, it is pumping through me. And I know that I can do anything. I am the only person who has seen what I can do the whole time. Anyway, I get me. I get me the most. And I know everything I'm capable of. And I know all my excuses. And I have the most amount of empathy for myself. And I have the most amount of belief anyone could have in me. Because I have seen everything from the front row. Actually, I've seen it from the stage. Because I am the star of this show. And I can call intermission. I can call an encore. I can extend the tour. I can do 10 outfit changes. I can hire backup dancers or increase ticket prices. I can cancel tonight's show. I can quit altogether if I want. It's all up to me. But I can't control if people in the audience don't like my new song. Or they can't come because it's raining. Or they think my new look is weird. Because I'm just me, and this is life. But I'm out here in the arena, being as vulnerable and real as I can be. Which is just one of the reasons why I love myself so damn much. I'm so grateful for all of the things that have happened in my life. the good, the bad, the ugly, the tragic. Because I learned. And I am growing. And I am loving myself in each era of myself. Unconditional love doesn't mean that I'm blind where I can grow. It means I love, accept, and forgive myself. As I notice what needs to be tended to. And I grow it with grace intentionally. And I do that. I love, accept, and forgive myself. With true grace and humility. Both in this moment with what I have and what I can do now. As well as the times that I haven't had as much kindness for myself. Because I had high expectations and standards. But that's only because I know I want to be a great person. But now I know that greatness can't come through shame. It must come through a softness, a tender love, a hug mixed with a deadline, and a real purpose. In my heart, because I believe in the power of me. And so it is. Take a deep breath in. Drink some water. Let me know what came up for you. My candle just finished burning. How are you feeling? Teared up saying some of those affirmations. Warmth and softness in your body where there was tension, comfort, feeling solidarity and community. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Emanating truth and authentic smile. Okay. Now, if you have your frame, what you have to do is very simple, super duper simple, and it'll last you forever. So you take your frame and you cut out a piece of paper that matches the inside of the frame, whatever size you have, okay? Feeling more open than I have in a minute. Ooh, yes, 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 yes. I'll have to screenshot all of these. Okay. And then you, on this piece of paper, this is going to go inside. So you want this to look however you want it to look, all right? I just have a white piece of paper and it says, I love you because this is going to stay in there. So if you want to add stickers or anything, you can, but you don't have to. This is all you need. And you just cut it out to be, like I said, the exact same part of the frame. And you want to be able to see it inside the frame. All right. So then I'm just going to show you what you do. And do this while you're here because you know, you're making time for it. And you can get these frames at like the dollar store, you know, doesn't matter how big it is. I mean, maybe not more than, you know, 4x6 is good, I think, inches. I don't know what that is in centimeters. Blame George Washington. Okay. So then you do this. And then once you have it like this, you have space on the outside frame because you want this to be clear glass. And you could write an affirmation to yourself. Just like a mirror. And you can write anything that you want on this and then wipe it off over and over and over. Now you can do this for, you can have multiple ones of these. You can have one for yourself and you can have one for a partner, you can have one for a best friend, you can have one for a roommate. And if you have one for, you know, one that you're using with a person, you can put pens out and you can kind of like share it. So it's kind of like an ongoing thing, you know? I have one that I do with Matt and we kind of like share, you know, so when it's one person leaves it up and then when you feel like it's your turn, you share it. So it's a literal way to do something. Um, you're not leaving early, we're over. That's totally fine. But okay, that's your little DIY that will keep you going forever. I've had this for years. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. Okay. If you have any questions about that, let me know. And then I just want to show you, oh, it's just like started on its own, huh? All right, give me a second, damn. What the inside of the dashboard looks like on the, oh, it's just not gonna, all right. Oh my God, okay. Damn, I'm just not in control here, huh? I wanted to show you what the inside of the dashboard of the Feel Good Troop looks like, because I know if you're not in there, it's a closed off thing because it's members only. And I think if you understand what it looks like in there, and this is just the Feel Good Troop. So you see like there's like a slider of events, and then on the side here you see all of the master classes, and when you click, it's, you know, there's the picture of the video, and then there's also audio if you just want the audio. And I mean, like I said, this is more bare bones because this is what you're, you know, it's less content. But inside of the Merriment Makers, like when you click on Dress for Joy, this accordion folder spans out and you're getting like 20 at least resources for each one. And then I wanted to show you just like the page of the Feel Good Troop of what it looks like. You're getting all of this. And it's only $39. It's a really, really, really good value. And you're also getting an $111 e-course, and you're getting free coaching. You're getting the game plan. You're getting additional master classes. Anytime a new master class comes out in the Merriment Makers, it gets added. There's consistent new material. So you're actually getting two master classes actually, you're getting three master classes every quarter. But one of them is focused specifically on mental health, and then the audio game plan. And then here's some more testimonials. That's a brilliant resource, something I'm finding very helpful to go back and redo every now and then. I've gotten so much from this week. I have an actual plan that's huge for me. Since the moment I met her at a conference, this woman has inspired me with her radical self-love. Everyone deserves more rainbows in their life. I'll say it right now, do yourself a favor and join. And then if you want to upgrade and get something really fancy for yourself, like really, I mean, just the library of your dreams of resources for joy and self-love and personal development, then you can get 30 modules with a new module every 6 weeks, direct access to me, gamify game plans. You get a membership, you get a birthday card, you get Merriment Mail, like a physical newsletter in the mail every month. You get texts every day. You get a group chat with a new message. You get community. It's the hub of joy forever. It's truly amazing. And that is at uncustomary.org/merriment-makers. And then the feel good troop is at uncustomary.org/feel good troop. And if you forget anything, you can always just go to uncustomary.org and find everything that I offered there. Why do links not work without HTTP? That's so stupid. But uncustomary.org has everything. Also, a lot of these things can be purchased a la carte, like self-training guides and the texts and the Merriment Mail. So I recommend doing the membership because it's, everything's bulked down and cheaper. Oh, also, when you join the Merriment Makers, you also get my Merriment Making book as a PDF. You get all of my Zodiac personal development workshops, which is worth over $1,000 on its own. And if you join the Merriment Makers today, you'll also get 20 minutes of audio coaching with me as well. So, if you're serious about embracing who you are and rejecting the conformity of society, if you're serious about making your goals, real, if you're serious about making every day more fun, injecting more joy into your life, then act now. Don't hesitate. I believe that you're here for a reason. I believe that this is your sign. I believe that we can make more joy together. And if you have any questions, whether it is about this class, whether it's about self-love, whether it's about your goals, or whether it's about the memberships, please feel free to ask me now. You can come on audio or you can type them in. It's up to you. But we'll do some time for that. And I appreciate you spending your time with me. I know we went over, but I tried to provide a bunch of different resources and education for all of that. And also don't forget that you have your workbook. It came in your newsletter or your email, and it's like, I don't know, it's a lot of pages. There's, what is in there? There's 50 ways to celebrate being single, 50 ways to mend a broken heart, 50 solo date ideas. There's some journaling prompts on how to plan your solo date. And there's also 50 ways to reignite romance because we're not assuming that everybody is single. So it depends on where you are in your life, but there's something in there for hopefully everybody. And yeah, let's see. Anything else I wanted to say? Oh, if you do the Merriment Makers in the first month, you save 30% off. You save $100 and you get immediate access to all the archives. You get 1,000 plus resources, 8 new modules a year, the good news text, the Merriment Mail, the membership card, the birthday card, the group texting, the Facebook community, the live calls, the group coaching, Q&A. Each level of the tiers, you get like a discount coming in. There's an incentive depending on what you choose. So go check that out. And I'll follow up with an email later with the links as well. But if you have any questions right now in regards to your goals or anything, let me know. I take some screenshots of all these. Okay, last call. You're very welcome. I'm so glad you had a good time. If you have anything nice to say, you can leave me a little comment right here. You can also find me on Instagram at Merriment Maker, um, and on Facebook at Uncustomary. You can leave me a review on Facebook, and you can leave nice comments. You can do anything nice. I also have an Etsy. There's a bunch of ways you can find me on uncustomary.org. So I also have a YouTube channel. We do a live YouTube class kind of like this every other Monday. It's called Merriment Mondays Live on YouTube. YouTube dot Mary England. There we go. If you want to subscribe there, what else? I have a podcast on Spotify and wherever you listen. That's called the Merriment Making Podcast. I don't know. Honestly, if you go to uncustomary.org, everything's there as a hub. But there's a bunch of ways to interact with me for free. There's a bunch of ways to interact with me that are paid. I do coaching, I do all sorts of stuff, but um whatever your desire is, oh, it's okay if you weren't interacting. There's always room for lurkers. And, even in the membership, people say like there have been people that have been members for like over 5 years that like barely interact, and they just love having, we're all different levels of desire of introverts and connectivity and all these things. And some of my favorite testimonials sometimes are just people who are like, it's worth it just to be a lurker. And I love that so much. Because sometimes it's nice to know that people are just there, you know. And a lot of the people that I attract are also not on social media, which is great, which is one of the reasons that I had that custom dashboard made up so that you can still um connect with us either way. And so sometimes I feel like people will join like the Facebook group and be like, where is everybody? But like, it's because we're living our lives. So I love you guys. This has been really wonderful. This has been really lovely. And I'm so grateful that you guys spent your time today. Is anybody feeling um do you feel like you got what you wanted today? Like did anybody come here, hoping to need like a distraction from Valentine's Day? Um, in a romantic way or anything? And I hope your workbook can help with some ideas for that. Oh, what's this picture? I love you because, oh, look at these affirmations you made for yourself. Your giggle is adorable as fuck. You are an innovator that spreads light. You take care of us no matter what. You are a brave and magical, peaceful warrior. You find joy even in darkness. There's only one of you. How special. You made such beautiful affirmations for yourself, Steffi. Oh, how lovely. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna save this. Oh, oh my goodness. I love your handwriting too. Wow. Feel like I got even more. Oh, yay. Okay, good. What was I'm always curious about like the level of like I mean, you guys don't have to stay on here. I'm just talking now. But like sometimes I just feel like people only talk on workshops and master classes and stuff. So like I like being able to do stuff that's more connect, because it's hard to do stuff over the, oh, your candle. Oh, look at the little heart face. Oh my goodness. I should have taken a picture of my candle. The double heart. Oh my God, that's so fucking cute. I wanted to try, it's hard to make things kind of like come off the screen, you know what I mean? Because we're all on the internet and that's a blessing to be able to connect with everybody. But like I want to be able to try to do things that make us feel like we're connecting to our bodies and we're not just like sitting here listening and journaling and stuff like that because it's so annoying to only like journal and stuff. So that's why I wanted to do like the DIY and the tapping and like the heart chakra stuff and the intention setting and stuff like that and just like bring it out a little bit more from just like only looking at a screen. So I hope that that felt good. Was there any part of that that felt like the most valuable or was there a part that you didn't like? Like you can be super fucking honest. I want to be able to try to do these like maybe once a month and really like the tapping keeps you more engaged. Okay. Yeah, I want because I'll end up zoning out a lot like on master classes like even when I want the stuff and I like the activities stuff more. I'm an activities girl. So I like doing that stuff. And I know everything's not going to be for everybody. Like we're always going to have like our favorite part. See a section for people to share. Okay, like these photos. Yeah, that's cool. A share circle. Well, I don't know. Like the thing is that there's always so many fucking groups to manage. And that's why I like having the Merriment Makers because we have the Facebook group and the group chat. I can only manage so many groups. But I mean, we do have this chat here and you guys are taking advantage of that. So I do appreciate that. I mean, maybe we could do I could be more vocal about um encouraging you guys to share pictures. I didn't even know we could share pictures in here, if I'm being honest. All right. We're all getting tapped out. It's been 2 hours. Okay. I love you. I appreciate you. The one tube AB. Okay, I can do that more too. All right. Well, I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for your feedback. Um, please keep connected with me. If you're on in oh, you know what? Here, take like a picture or something. Are we all on camera? I don't even know how to see. I should have done that earlier. Well, take a picture of something. Here, let me do, it doesn't matter. You can take a picture of me, and if you tag something of me on the internet, and then I can, that'll be a nice way to like kind of, um, I don't know. 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 Just tell me how you like the workshop. Share it with other people because there's going to be a replay and other people can watch it. Because there's still like 100 other people that aren't here live because it's Valentine's Day. All right. But I love you. Thank you for coming. Enjoy the rest of your night. You have to feel good to do good.